Are we good? Cool. So, welcome everybody. Glad to see so many fresh faces and so many worn faces who were already with us for the last 7 days. Today we have an amazing workshop for you. I will introduce that in a second, but let's hear from our general first to tell us the location house rules. Nina. I learned my lesson, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Thank you very much. Guys, just quickly. Always, every day, I have to shooting. I have to make a video for this message I pass to you, because this message is going to this telephone number, or this telephone machine. This video I send to the owners. So, I mean, this is my proof. I let you know, all of you, every event inside this garage or this school, I let you know the rules. I know this is disgusting. You look at me like the general, but all army, all group needs a general, isn't it? So, rules. Aí vai as regras. Okay, so, first rule, no smoking. Okay? Weed, cigarette, vape, I don't care. No smoking. No alcohol. Food, kino, bring food to you in the cantina. Try your best not to eat in this area. Why? Because I have to clean myself every night this area because of rats. I love rats, but you know. Help me keep the place clean. If you go to the toilet, keep the toilet like you found it. If you found it dirty, just help me to make it clean. Okay? It's easy, simple. Okay? So, and please, I know everyone is here. We have a special guest today. Thank you very much for coming. Welcome to our house. For the filmmakers, if you need to use someone, some actor, someone from outside, from the street, from your family, parents, or friends, please let Phil, Kate, Patrick, or myself know about that. Because I have a permission from the owners to only quinoides people. You say quinoides people. How do you say? Quinoides people. So only you can come in and stay all day here free, okay, walking everywhere. But if you need someone not from Kino and not from my studio, please just let me know. It's easy, okay? We have kids in the area as well, okay? So this is the simple rules I would like you, I appreciate. The 30th floor, you cannot trespass in there. The 30th floor, don't go there. Simple like that, don't go there, okay? So, and keep the cantina, help the king as well, help me to keep it clean, all right? Thank you very, very much. Enjoy your workshop.
Thank you, Nina. So now that we had the formalities out of the way, let's start today's workshop. I think we have lots of actors in the house, and we have lots of people who are usually working as crew. And I really, really feel strongly about that these are things that everybody should be having in their mind when you ever consider an intimate scene or anything similar to that. So thank God we have an amazing speaker in Sinead today who will tell us all about what you have to be conscious of and how you can make these experiences for everybody a pleasant and good experience on set. So please welcome Sinead.
Is that turned on? Yours is on. Hi guys. So, can I get a raise of hands, anyone that's worked with an intimacy coordinator before? Anyone? Cool. 2 people? Brill. So, an intimacy coordinator is someone who works with cast and also crew to protect actors on set, and they're to choreograph intimate scenes. That doesn't always mean sex scenes, guys. It also means scenes to do with trauma. There's rape scenes, domestic violence, anything. If anyone that has any kind of intimacy or intimate touching on set, I should be there. So, next slide, Phil. So, yeah, I'm there basically just to keep you guys safe, any boundaries that you have, to keep them in place. It's always okay at the beginning if you don't know you have any boundaries. That's why we do all these exercises to see, hey, later on you could realize you don't like your shoulder being touched or your neck being touched or grabbed this way or your hair being pulled. We kind of establish all these at the beginning so you know what you like, what you don't, and then we can move forward. You never, ever have to do something that you don't feel comfortable doing. Even if it's in a contract before, I'm there to make sure if you change your mind, whether it's 1 take in, whether it's 50 takes in, whether it's before we start or after, if you're not happy or comfortable, I'm there to make sure you're okay and we don't do it. As actors, a lot of you know, a lot of us are afraid to, you know, tell a director no, because you don't want to be difficult, or you don't want to be that person that's making things a bit awkward, or you want to please them so I can get the next role and the next gig and everything. You don't have to do that. That's long gone. You can do what you feel comfortable doing. Please don't ever feel pressured into doing something you don't want to do, okay? So I'm also working with the director and the DOP and costume to get modesty garments to kind of choreograph your scene. Intimacy scenes are always done with a skeleton crew. For anyone that doesn't know, a skeleton crew is the only bare essential crew members that need to be on set. Everyone else kind of waits outside until I say it's okay, or the AD says it's okay to come back in, and then we can rearrange things, and then they leave again. Next slide. So modesty garments. Connor, do you want to give me modesty garment? Yeah. So modesty garments are used to protect you, thank you, on set. These we put in genital areas. We have ones that kind of range with more coverage, less coverage. They can be stick-on bras, they can be genital covers, nipple pasties, they could be shorts, depending on what the scene is. We can change things around, you can have more coverage or less. Just kind of depends on what scene you're doing. These ones are more for the frontal area, so it looks like you're bare from behind. They have barriers inside of them. Let me see. Just a silicone barrier. You can get intimacy garments that don't have them in it, but I always make sure we have loads of extra ones. I'll get you to pass these out so people can see what they're like. So this is a female one. It goes at the front, and then this little pick goes in between your cheeks. And then this one is a male one that you use a drawstring, and you tighten it, and then we tape everything on top. There you go. They come in all different shades, different sizes, everything, so we can really match with the actor. So it literally looks like nothing on. For scenes that require more like visual nudity, we will get a stand-in, or like we'll organize someone from a different industry who can come in and do those scenes if you're not comfortable doing them. But we always make sure with the actors first that they're happy, that you're not compromised. So anything where we do, like a few weeks ago, I done a shoot where it had to be an actor's photo on the phone and it was his chest. We went through it first, make sure he was happy. It wasn't his actual chest, but something that looked like him that he was comfortable having out there. So you're never, ever compromised. I normally help, like I give a tutorial of how to put the actual modesty garment on, but in some cases where actors are a bit unsure, I do help them secure it, just to make sure that they're super comfy and safe. Sometimes actors might feel like that's not enough coverage and they want a bit more. If a director's like, oh, I don't know, I want more out, I'm there to make sure, no, if you're not comfortable and you want more coverage, then I'll make sure you're covered more as well. Next one. So what happens in preps before scenes? So on bigger productions, sometimes we have the luxury of having a few days before set where we'll go in and do rehearsals. How I choreograph scenes, I always say it's kind of similar to how you choreograph a dance. It's very slow and in steps. It's always bit by bit. But sometimes we don't have that luxury if it's a shorter production or if time constraints when they bring me on. So I would choreograph everything that morning. So normally what I would do first is I would do some boundary exercises to go with you guys. I'd kind of lay out everything. I'd check with you first, have like maybe a Zoom call if possible to say, what are you comfortable with? What are you not comfortable with? Is there anything you're unsure of in your script that you might want to change? And then I can talk to the director about that as well. Yeah, next one. So what are boundary exercises? So every intimacy coordinator has their own that they feel works best for them. But for me, I have a certain set that I always find really, really works. So the first one I normally kind of cover is where I get two actors to sit in front of each other and get them just kind of look into each other's eyes for, I won't ever tell them what time, just until I tell them we're ready to go to the next one. This way, it's, next one actually, Phil? Yeah, so it's kind of like an awkward silence because we always feel super uncomfortable when we have to stand in front of someone, and then imagine doing it with nothing on and all this different crew in the room, and you're like, oh God, this is really uncomfortable, I don't like it. So I usually make them sit there, and I do a bit of Meisner as well, where I'll get them to think of like maybe 5 things that they notice about the other person. It could be something that they like, something that they've seen. It could be, you've brown hair, you've green eyes, I like your eyebrows, you've really great eyelashes, you've great facial structure, anything. And it really kind of brings the two people together closer, so they kind of feel that sense of comfortability, because things are about to feel a bit more uncomfortable the more we go on. The next one I normally go to is, well, I always go through the kissing scenes next. So I do like 5 particular zones. So we start with like the hand, then we'll go to a shoulder, then we'll go to a neck, a cheek, and a lips. Now, when you are doing kissing scenes, you are never, ever using your tongue unless the director feels it is absolutely essential to that scene and both actors are consenting. We just don't do it. It's not needed. It doesn't matter if we have it or not. But we'll kind of go through those and see, because some actors might not like their neck being touched, like being kissed, or their cheek being kissed, or their forehead. But that way, when we establish this, it gives you more creative freedom when you're in the scene. So if you feel like the two of you had fully gone through your boundaries and you're a boyfriend and girlfriend in the scene, and you might pull your girlfriend in and give her a kiss on the forehead, or you might give her a tickle, something that feels very natural. You both have established those kind of boundaries you have set in place, so you feel comfortable to do it, and you're like, oh God, actually, does Stacey feel comfortable doing that? But also, she's Janet right now, and I don't want to pull it out, and it just feels really, really awkward. So we kind of establish that first and foremost. And then again, if anything changes later on and the boundaries change, you could be 10 takes in, you're like, I don't want to be kissed there anymore, I don't want to be touched. We go over and everyone's super comfy. Okay, next scene. So when we're filming the scenes, normally we have a general idea from the script what's going to happen. So it makes my job a little bit easier, but I will always have some backup ideas to give to the director or the DOP to see how it's going to work with their shot. So we go through different like sexual positions, different movements, different touches, different suggestions, but normally I'll base it what's in the page and bring the page to life for that particular scene. But if things change, if you're not comfortable in it, then we change that as well. Also, don't have them with me, but we normally also have knee pads if you're doing a lot of doggy scenes or scenes on your knees. Another thing, it looks always so real when you're watching it on set, but I actually have you guys pretty separated when you're on the bed. So it looks very much like you're head on, but I could have you slowly move a little bit to the left. I also sometimes put a pillow as an extra guard of protection for you guys. So it looks like you're having sex, but you could just be basically humping air. And it feels weird, but like it looks really good. I do have a lot of rules on set as well, that because it is a skeleton crew and everyone isn't in, next slide, that we have it very, very based on all the monitors are turned off except for certain crew members. So essential crew members will be the first AD, intimacy coordinator, the director, DOP, a focus puller, and a script supervisor, and a boom operator. That's the only crew that needs to be in the room. Everyone else waits outside. I normally send a big list off to the AD. He sends out with the call sheets the day before, and constantly each as a reminder to the crew. That doesn't go to cast, it only goes to crew. But it just kind of establishes what's going to happen. We turn off the video village and all the monitors except for those particular people, and phones are turned off and left outside the room, so you guys are never compromised, ever. Because you know, some people are on set and they're like, want to take a photo of the day, and they could take a photo of the monitor, but they don't know what's on that could compromise you. You could be in an awkward position. It could be something very vulnerable for you. And we don't want that posted online. So those are the kind of main bases. I work really, really close with the first AD as well to make sure that we're on the same page. Intimacy coordination is still very new. People aren't really used to it yet. There are some people that have an opinion of, you know, intimacy coordination isn't that important, or why do we need it, and why do we have to follow these rules? I had on a set recently where a gaffer wasn't super happy that I had to make him leave the room and the phone couldn't be out. It's still an awkward conversation that needs to be had, but intimacy coordination is so, so important. It's not just for cast, it is for crew, because you don't know what's going to trigger you. I had it on another set where we were filming a rape scene in a bathroom, and it was just the boom operator and the 2 actors. We'd done the scene, but he needed to record the vocals. And it set him into such a spiral. I had to do mental health first aid on him later on so we could continue the scene. You really don't know what's going to trigger you, and you don't know when it's going to happen. You could have had nothing happen to you in your life, but just physically seeing it or hearing it can really set you off. So I need to make sure that everyone is taken care of at all times. Okay, I think we can go for the next one. So this is the, it's really hard to see. This is the kind of guidelines that I would send out. It just kind of lets people know we're going to be doing a scene of intimacy or something that will have simulated sex or nudity. It just kind of lets everyone know what's going to happen the next day, just a fresh reminder of anything that's going to be happening. I also do a crew meeting at the very beginning of the day, kind of going over everything with people, just like an extra reminder, just to make sure that they're happy and they know what's going on. I'm also there to always answer any questions for any crew or any cast and work really closely with them. So that's mainly kind of intimacy coordination. There are a lot of courses that are opening up for intimacy coordinators that want to do it full time. There's so many amazing outlets online, on social media for people. TikTok is becoming a very big thing. There's an intimacy coordinator on there. She posts a lot of videos. There's a lot of books. There's links. There's everything. I feel like everyone who's in crew or in cast should really, really start looking into it more, because it is becoming a thing that's going to be on every set, hopefully, in the future. And also, starting as I am an actor first and foremost. I do a lot in production, but I got into intimacy coordination because I had a really traumatic experience. When I went to Bow Street, we'd done a little bit on it, and then from there, I went on to different sets, and I do it with my actors, just so we'd all feel comfortable, because it's really awkward, and you don't know someone for the first time, and you have to kiss them and pretend they're the love of your life, and you only met them this morning. And a lot of the producers and directors were interested, and then I went from set to set to set, building it up, and that's how I became where I am today. But I feel like without intimacy coordination, we'd all be kind of lost. There was a set I was on, and I had to do an intimate scene, and I had a contract. There was no intimacy coordinator, and they were like, right, so you'll be under the bed, and you'll have some garments on. You can wear your own clothes. We won't see anything. It'll be kind of blurry, be fine. And then we get there on the day, and we're 8 scenes in, and it's like 7 p.m. All the female crew's gone home, and they hand me some lingerie, and they're like, right, on top of the bed. And I was like, whoa, I didn't agree to that, and there's no one here. And I felt so lost, and like my voice was taken from me. And I had to do it, and I had to get on the bed, because I didn't feel like I could say no. I didn't feel like anyone was there to protect me. And then we shot the scenes, and the director was actually the actor with me in it, and he wanted to be totally naked. I was like, no, you can't do that. You're going to be like on top of me, like that's not a thing. So we convinced him, had to convince him to put boxers on. And we were filming the scenes, and then he improvised something, and he just grabbed my wrists and pinned me down, and I felt so violated. And the lingerie moved, and I couldn't reach down to fix it, because if I reached, I would have touched him. And then he was thrusting away and hit off me, and it was assault. And it happened, and I didn't hear anything about the film then until it was screened in the Lighthouse in front of all the professionals in Ireland, and I had no clue. And that is such a common thing that's happening. I had another set where I was filming in Sligo, and we had kissing scenes only. And the director added 5 more kissing scenes that day because he thought it added to the scene. And he wanted the scenes to start before action and after cut. And I had no one there to protect me and make sure I was okay. So these things happen a lot more than you would think. And it can happen to guys too. It's not just women. That's another thing I always tell my actors. They're so afraid. They're like, oh, but like, is she okay when I'm asking you, how are you feeling? And they're like, oh, but like, it's the woman. I'm like, no, it's not. It's all of you guys. It doesn't matter what your gender is. If something like this affects you, it can happen to any of you. The sound guy was male. Big, strong, tall guy, and it really tore him to shreds. It can happen. Please don't feel like you can't, and you have to worry about the women there, or one person. Worry about you. Same with any crew members, worry about you. Tell me how you're feeling. If something's wrong, if something doesn't feel right, say it. Same what I always tell my actors, sometimes you might get people joking on set, and that's fine. But when they really start joking about silly things or making you feel super uncomfortable, say it. If they're afraid, they're like, oh, I don't want to make a fuss, I don't want to say anything. No, be open, be honest, because things aren't going to change until we start changing ourselves. And there was a few different articles that you see online. Everything has ups and downs for Clean Sweep. And there was an actor, she was the lead. All in the papers. Intimacy coordinator made my job harder. They weren't needed. Because she and her scene partner knew each other before. And she thought, oh, this is making it more uncomfortable because I didn't need this woman here. And now I have to do all these boundaries and these exercises. But people forget, I'm not just there for cast. I'm there for crew. I'm there to protect the director, the sound guy, the gaffer, everyone that's there. Make sure you're all feeling okay. Because you don't know what's going to trigger you. And it's such a shame when you see things like that, and it really sets things back. But things are changing. So hopefully you'll see more of me and a few others on set. And now there's a lot of interest. A lot of people are coming up and wanting to shadow me for different sets. So luckily things are spreading, which is really great. So I think that's everything. Does anyone have any questions?
I have one
Go on.
to start with. Like one of the questions is that obviously an ideal scenario, we will have either you or somebody to coordinate these scenes on set. But we all know that things are far from ideal scenario at the moment, especially in smaller productions. So are there any key steps or guidelines, basics you can give to the crowd to what to keep in mind if they don't have an intimacy coordinator in set?
Check on the actors. Make sure they're okay. It's very nerve-wracking going on and knowing you have to film those scenes. That's why when I'm working with the first AD and the director and DOP, when we're organizing the schedule, I'm like, hey, can we do those scenes first? Because when I worked with RTE, we done a film called Mustard. And we organized all of the sex scenes to be done the first day. And then we had like romantic, like lovey-dovey stuff, but all the hardcore sex stuff, first day, after we'd done the lake bit first, then we went to the hotel and we done all the scenes there. And the actors felt so much more comfortable because they were like, we got all that out of the way, we don't need to worry about it anymore, we're fine. And then they're able to do all their kind of romantic scenes. So just be mindful, especially if the actors are very quiet and they don't really want to talk, just leave them to it the way you normally would if they're trying to learn lines or go over it. They can be very anxious, it's expected. I know it's hard, try not to look. If someone comes in, you think, oh God, they're naked, and you look, try for a sec and avoid. Leave them to it. I'm also always in the room because I'm holding their robes. So in between action and cut, I'll give them a robe to throw on, and that's when I can let the art department and makeup and everyone come in, so that way they're not compromised. Like my job is to make sure you guys are covered, you're safe, you're happy, you're comfortable, and anything you need, I'm there to give it. Same way I bring chewing gum and Tic Tacs and everything on set. If you're having a smoke, that you're like, oh God, is my breath okay? Because it's things it feels like you're having your first kiss all over again, you know, when you're like 13 and you're down the club and you have like a kiss, like it's awkward, and it never goes away, it always feels like that. But yeah, just look out for the key signs of them being anxious, give them some space. If you see something, say something. If you see people joking about it, making nasty jokes that you think are just wrong, there's no need for it. If you see someone with a phone that they snuck one and try and take a photo, just say, hey, not here. If you see other monitors that should not be on, make sure they're turned off. Make sure someone is there to protect those actors because someone needs to do it. And a lot of the times people are afraid to speak up. They're like, oh no, I don't want to be a bother either. Like I'm only a best boy, or I'm only like a boom op or a sound engineer. Like no, it doesn't matter who you are, just be someone there to stand up. One of my friends is working on a set in the UK, and they were filming the scene where he was in it, and the woman had to come up and just drop everything and stand in front of him. And they were filming in a big barn, and all the crew were at the very back, and they were there taking loads of photos of her and filming it. And they were like, oh, isn't that so cool? She looks so hot. Like and she had no clue that was going on, and he had to go over and be like, lads, cop on. Like it's not hard to just show someone some decency. It's like if you took photos of someone in a swimming pool, or someone that just you randomly saw. Like it doesn't have to be on a set. Just imagine someone doing that to you outside and how vulnerable you'd feel and uncomfortable. It's not okay. So just say something. Don't be afraid to.
Thank you. Anyone else have questions? Oh, lots of shy people. One thing I often face is that people are getting a bit iffy, not just about the idea of an intimacy coordinator, but the fact that you are choreographing an intimate scenes, because lots of directors and people who have no clue, they just say that, oh, it won't look real. Yet we still know from, from stunt fights and things like that these are choreographed. Yet they are safe and they look real. So what's your take on that?
You'll even have some actors that are like, oh, well, this is my actual wife playing my partner in the scene. Can we not just have sex? No, because that is porn and you can't do that. You can't. Because you have to think also, the audience who are watching it at home, they're not consenting to watching porn on the TV. Like, they could be watching it with a family and just a quick scene comes on and their kids are there. Like, you can't. Everything has to be fake. Everything is covered. There are no exceptions to the rule. You must wear an intimacy garment at all times. And if you have a problem with it, then you leave the set. Can't. Same way I tell a lot of guys, it's very awkward, but if for some reason you get aroused, which it happens, you're covered. But I do code words with my actor to just let me know, I need 5 minutes to go to the bathroom and cool off. That's like another big thing. Just can't be hard and set, guys. But it happens with crew as well. If something, you don't know how it's going to randomly happen. Your body, you can't control it. So I'll just tell them, like, just say Sinead. And they're like, right. And then if they need a minute, they get a minute. It's perfectly fine.
Still no questions, guys? Ah, finally.
Yes.
Is it better? Is it easier and better to find actors who are actually attracted to each other, or is that worse in terms of just making it look real? I mean, not for sex scenes. I mean, for like less so like a kissing or romantic stuff like that.
Well, you know yourself as an actor, you don't get to pick your scene partners. So it's never something I'd say to them, hey, do you think she's fine? Like, but if it happens, then cool. If you don't, you'd have to be a professional actor and pretend. It's all pretend, so you have to just throw it in there. But I suppose it would help actors' point of view, like, but you just have to imagine it's someone else. Imagine it's, I don't know, who's a very good-looking actor. Mine's gone blank. Someone. Adam Driver. Imagine it's Adam Driver. Or Sofia Vergara, someone. Just pretend. Make believe.
Okay. Is there like any exercises that actors can do beforehand if they're like they obviously don't know each other very well, or to try and get familiar other than the eye contact thing, or like any like activities? Because I know in theatre we used to do a lot of like trust exercises and to build the bond kind of.
Well, if we have like millions of time, there's loads of activities I do with them. We even have one where it's you recreate animals having sex. So like I usually show them a video, and like the snail is so beautiful, by the way. And you just kind of watch that, and we kind of move around, get comfortable with each other. I even sometimes I might get the actors in when we get them in the space. So I'll choreograph it, and then I'll bring you into the actual set. We'll clear the set, and then we'll redo everything in that space. So that way you don't like, right, I know exactly how I'm going to move my leg here, do this, whatever. And you go in and you're like, oh, this isn't where I practice. I don't know what I'm doing, and you freeze. So we'll do that, and then I might get them in if they're going to be wearing nothing, just in with their robes, and just get used to being around each other in the nip, because they're used to, you know, wearing all the clothes in the world. And then all of a sudden it's like, right, strip. I usually also get them to wear something super comfy they can move in. So bring some joggers with you, some shorts, some leggings, something that you can kind of move around in, you feel more comfortable, and then it just gets easier. Now your first scene's always going to be the hardest thing, and it will get easier sometimes, but it's all about having that trust there that your intimacy coordinator has your back. Like I turn into full mama bear mode when I'm on set, and I'm like, don't annoy my actors, make sure they're okay. But yeah, just little exercises, little boundary exercises. I also do one more with them that I call it red light, yellow light, green light. So red light means I'm really uncomfortable and I need to stop now. Yellow means I'm feeling a bit iffy, but let's try it. And green means I'm feeling great. And then before we shoot a scene, I'll just shout and I'm like, give me a color. And I'll know based on that if we need to stop for a few minutes or if they're all set, ready to go.
Do you know, I often, when I'm watching films, there's nothing worse than a bad kiss. Really awful to watch. And I'm wondering, as a director, how do you navigate getting the best kiss without tongues that doesn't look fake as hell?
It sounds bad, but it's practice. So when we're doing the kiss bit, like from the hand to the shoulder to the neck to the cheek to the lips, I'll let them do a quick one first, just like get the feel of it, and then I'm like, right, okay, bit longer, and I'll time it. And then the next time I'm like, okay, do it in character, see how that feels. And then I'll get the director and the DOP, just them, and let them have a look and see what they're thinking, if it works, if it doesn't work, if they want to change something, which is perfectly fine. But it's all just about giving them a little bit, let them practice a few times, because it's like literally it's like your first kiss again. You're like, oh God, where do I put anything? And it's really awkward, but then just a little bit longer and then you'll be okay. Also, think of it from their point of view. They have a camera in their face, they have people all around them, there's this person they don't really know, and they're like, right, go, you're in love. And you're like, I don't know who that is.
So we are here in Kino, where we are making zero budget films, and we don't have a budget to pay for the intimacy coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we deal with that if we have no budget?
Fair question. So there are a lot of really good resources online. Again, there's a TikTok lady as well. I can get everything for you, and you can send it to everyone, and you just have a look through it, some guidelines, just things that can really help you guys when you're on set, and just have them saved on your phone. And you'd be like, okay, this is how you do this, that, whatever. If that helps at all. There's amazing books out there as well people can read. You can never stop, same with acting and with any crew job, or anything in life, you never stop learning. There's going to be new ways, new techniques, new things you can do, but there's some bases, some key ones that I do that I can send that are really, really helpful for those kind of situations.
That would be amazing, thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Hi. I would just wonder, from a script perspective, because you were saying that you choreograph the scenes, and I wonder, like, as a screenwriter, does it help to have a script that has more details about that intimate scene that you're writing about, or in a way, because I'm not particularly, let's say, comfortable in getting into the details. Those mixes seem very long, and you just kind of go, well, is this necessary to spend this much time on the page writing exactly how it's going to be?
Yeah.
So I wonder, like, do you find it is more helpful if the script is detailed, or do you, or is it enough, let's say, for you to have a general view of, okay, well, whatever is written on the script, do you find that more limiting, or is just about, like, when you get then on set, about how, say, open-minded or flexible the director is at that point?
I always say the more information, the better, because it really helps you tell. But I don't just go by that scene. I read and go through the emotions that are in before and after to kind of give me a basis on what point in time they should be feeling. Same when I work with stunt directors, stunt coordinators, when they're doing their scenes, because it is so intimate. So we kind of balance everything together. But the more information I can get, the better. But also at the same time, when we go on set, if the actor's like, I don't want to do that, then we find a different way around it. That's why I work so closely with the DOP as well, because we need, and the director, to get the vision to come to life. Same what everyone does with their own set. They want it to happen for them. They want something good. But sometimes we have to change things, depending on someone's comfortability. But yeah, if there's not much description, I kind of just go by, okay, this is how I think it might feel. And then I'll talk to the actors and be like, okay, in your character and all your character work that you've done, how do you feel this would go right now? And see how that kind of works in.
Hi. What would you usually do if someone like a director is extremely nervous about doing intimate scenes? What do they do? What do you usually do if they think, oh, I don't want to mess this up. I feel like I'm messing it up. What do you usually do if there are major people involved thinking, oh, they're afraid of, performing these kinds of scenes?
So I always have a little chat with the director first and foremost before we go into anything as well. I'll have a Zoom, meet up for coffee, something, and I'll kind of go over and be like, okay, what are you terrified of? What are you happy with? What do you think might change? And what's your plan? What's your overall view of how you want the film to look? Because you want it to be tasteful, unless it's purposely written to be not tasteful. So I'll go over that with them and make sure they're feeling comfortable and know that I'm there as their right-hand woman to make sure that they're happy and what they want happens without any rules being broken, anyone being traumatized. And yeah, it's just really working closely with them, having that trust there. We wouldn't be there if we didn't know what we were doing, same with everyone else. Everyone's on the set for a reason. So give us that trust and know that if you have any questions, I always tell actors in any role in production I'm doing, there's no such thing as silly questions. Even if you already know the answer and you want a confirmation, just ask it. I'm not going to be like, no, I'm not answering that. Ask.
Hi there. Just from what you described, obviously you've had a few bad instances like on male-dominated sets. So, in your opinion, do you think intimacy coordinators should always be like a female, should be performed by females?
So I've had a few actually males asked to shadow me as well before, and it's always a tricky situation. I do feel, just in this instance, the way there's certain instances for everything throughout life, it should be mainly female intimacy coordinators. But you can have a male assistant. It's just you need a woman's touch to help, because I've had both girls and guys saying like, oh God, I couldn't do that if it was a man. Even if they're the loveliest man in the world and they have all the experience, sometimes you're just not comfortable. You need that maternal person there. Because there was another instance when I was on set, and it was actually for Mustard, for intimacy coordination there for RTE, and the modesty garment, because it was so hot in the room, he was sweating so much it came off, and things were poking out, and he was like, Sinead, come over, and then I fixed it under the covers. But if that was a man, he might be a bit like, oh God, because we have to get really vulnerable people sometimes, and we have to get in the nitty-gritty in certain areas that people might be too afraid to show out. Also, as women, we all understand it. Sometimes it's not the most comfortable in certain situations, and having another woman there is really important. So I do feel they should predominantly be women, but maybe in the future we might be able to have some male intimacy coordinators, but for the moment, if they do come on, maybe they'd be an assistant just kind of helping out, but the nitty-gritty should be female. I always hate saying that because it sounds so sexist, but I promise it's not.
Yeah. So you speak about being comfortable with the partner. Sorry if my English is not perfect. Here I already had those sort of erotic things, but I was also thinking about, is an intimacy coordinator work also with to being comfortable with the team who is shooting the scene.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you doing between the actors and the team? Is there some work to do at that point?
So I do a lot of work with the actors themselves, kind of making sure they're happy and comfortable with me. Like we'll have a few chats. I'm always like, just text me, call me if you need anything. Because you could be like, yeah, great, done all the exercises, no bother. And then it comes to actually doing it, or it could be the night before and you're panicking, you're like, oh God, I have to do that tomorrow. And you're terrified. So it's all, again, about building that trust. Same with the crew. Throughout the scenes afterwards, especially a really traumatic scene, I'll go around and check on people. So it might get very annoying, but like every 2 months might be like, are you okay? Are you all right? Do you need anything? Are you okay? Are you sure? Fine. Like for, we shot Verdigris, that was a feature film, and there was a really traumatic scene, and it didn't even involve sex. It was the main character, she goes into the living room after having a shower. She is a prostitute, but in this case, she's just at home, enjoying her space, and she's in a towel. And one of her clients, he goes for the boyfriend experience, and he was sitting on her sofa. He broke into her house, and he was like, I heard you broke up with your boyfriend, so I'm here, and I'm going to move in, and I'm going to be your boyfriend. And she panics, and she's like, oh, that's great, Neddy. And she's like, right, I'm going to go get ready, and I'm going to go upstairs and put makeup on. And he sees that she takes her phone. He's like, why are you taking your phone? And then she runs up the stairs, and she runs into the bathroom, and she's locking the door, and he's coming up, and he's screaming at her, and he's like, open the door, Jill, and he's like pulling at the door, and he's hitting it. And the actor gave it loads, and he actually busted his finger a bit, and he was bleeding a bit. But those scenes are so intense to watch someone absolutely lose themselves, and that's fully coordinated by me, because it doesn't have to be sex scenes. And it was very traumatic for some people, especially if someone was in a domestic violence experience in their own life, or they've seen it, or they have a friend that's gone through it, and it hits you and you're like, oh, shit. So I always check to make sure you're all doing okay. So yeah, just about getting comfortable with everyone, knowing the trust is there, and I'm the one that everyone can like always have a chat with.
So like in terms of just like the blocking instructions and like that type of stuff, is that done by you, like the intimacy coordinator, or the director's still doing that? Like,
so the good chunk of it is me, like anything that's really sexual, like the actual act of it. Like for Mustard, we did he picks her up and they're undressing each other and they go on the stairs and then he goes down on her and all that kind of stuff. That's me. I'll go over, I'll draw some diagrams, I'll do kind of like a storyboard for the director, and then we'll go and I'll choreograph it with the actors so the director isn't there, to make sure they're actually comfortable with it, because I don't want to show a director and they go, actually I don't really want to do this, and then I'll bring the director in and the DOP and they'll have a look and they're like, right, this works shot-wise, or I really like how that looks story-wise and that's feeding to my vision. And then from there we can change it and be like, okay, actually we want to, she's on this side, or this one's higher up, or this one's lower. So it's mainly me that choreographs, and then I bring the director and the DOP in as a collaboration from there, but just making sure the actors are happy and comfortable first. I do that bit, because they trust me the most at that point in those scenes. Yeah.
Anyone else?
I have two questions. I was just like curious if, for example, if the actor is male, would he need also like a female intimacy coordinator or a male coordinator? What is like the experience? And the second one, if you have maybe some like actual exercises, maybe like physical ones, which make the intimacy work a bit easier for the actors.
So I've never had anyone ask for a male intimacy coordinator. Most, if not all the time, they're kind of looking for a female because they feel girls are a bit more sensitive to like how that's feeling, because it's like known like you feel more vulnerable sometimes, and we're more understanding, and they feel like it reminds them of like their mom taking care of them. So it would mostly, I've never had anyone ask for a male intimacy coordinator, and I don't really know if there are many. But in that instance, I'd kind of work with them more and find out what it is that I need to do to kind of make them feel more secure and more comfortable. And then we kind of work with it on that. The physical exercises would be the kind of staring at each other, and then we can go for, sometimes we might do a hug. I try get the actors to stay in character when they're doing it after we establish some boundaries. That way every movement and every physical or emotional or verbal thing they do next is in that character, so they know how that makes them feel, because themselves could feel grand and then they're actually in their character's mind and they're like, oh, they wouldn't do that, or they wouldn't act that way, or they're more aggressive, or they're more distant, or whatever it is from there, and we kind of just work on and base it around it. That's why I also do a lot of the kissing exercises of like trying different areas, see what feels okay, what doesn't feel okay. Because again, you could feel fine doing it, and then we could be 3 takes in, you're like, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't like that. Something in me changed and it dropped and I don't want to do it. And that's okay. We'll always find a different way if you're not happy and you're not comfortable, to find a new way of getting what we need.
Have you ever had a situation where something has changed on the set, but the director was very into what was settled on before, and they sort of insisted on keeping it the original way and weren't okay with modifying it?
Yeah, so I've had it a few times. What I do in that situation is I kind of just stand my ground of like, they're not comfortable. We need the actors to make the film first and foremost, so we need to work on them. I'm respecting their boundaries, and it's literally the legal rules of intimacy coordination that you can't force someone to do something they don't want to do, and we have to stick to certain guidelines. so we don't have to go back and report things. Obviously, in some cases, that's been broken, and that's very unfortunate, and we're working on that not happening anymore. But it's about just being like, okay, let's take 20 minutes and let's go over it. Why does it have to be that way? Why can't we try something new? And let's find a balance, meet halfway and find something else, because I'm super strict with my actors. I don't, under any circumstances, I'll fight for it till the end.
Okay, I guess my next question would be, have you ever had a situation in that case where they replaced the actor that couldn't go on doing whatever it was that they wanted them to do?
Luckily, in my experience, no. Obviously, it happens sometimes on different productions, mainly in America, but not in my case here, and I've worked on a lot of productions, so luckily everyone's so sweet and lovely here and understanding, but you will get that, and sometimes you just have to take a loss.
Yeah, just about like all the list of rules you'd mentioned about who can be in the room and things like that. Like, how many of those rules are like enforced, like law or by a union, and which ones of those are just like sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not?
All of them.
They're all enforced. Okay.
Yeah.
They should be.
On my sets, there. I always make sure.
And I think this is a good example of what you said earlier, that if they are not, you can speak up.
Yeah, oh, 100%.
And even if you are a crew member and you're look out for each other, especially in smaller production. Don't forget, guys, Sinead works on big productions with RTE and feature films. We might be working on smaller things where you might get more into that situation when somebody is trying to force you to do something but you don't want to. But look out for your actors, even if you are on the crew.
Think of it as in, how would you want someone to help you in your shoes if you didn't have a voice? If someone could stand up and be like, no, that's wrong, and do something about it.
And if we need an intimacy coordinator, how do we find them?
It's becoming they're starting to make some websites to find them. A lot of the time, even for me, it's people are like recommending word of mouth, and seeing kind of my stuff pop up everywhere. So I would try reach out on even Film Network Ireland, some of the the different chat forums, and be like, hey, I'm looking for an intimacy coordinator, because a lot of the websites that they've created are for like the really, really big intimacy coordinators that are never really here, that will cost you an arm and a leg and maybe more. So finding newer intimacy coordinators that are not like constantly away with Netflix will be best. And you will get some really big sets that just don't bother getting an intimacy coordinator, and they really should, like some of the Game of Thrones stuff. There was one case of, I think it was for House of the Dragon, and the extras arrived on set and they had no intimacy coordinator, no one to take care of them, and they had to do an orgy all day for 12 hours. And no one was there to be like, are you okay? Are you sure you're fine with that? And you will get that. That's why it's so important to really promote intimacy coordination and know like, hey, it's actually really serious and we should be doing this more. Instead of just being like, oh, they'll be fine. Because that's the attitude. It's like, oh, they'll be fine. They'll figure it out. They're actors. They signed up for this. No. We're there to create, but we're not there to do everything everyone wants. We're not a slave. And people have feelings.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, for those of us who can't afford one, is there a particular website where we can get the devices and the different things that you sent around here, you know, that covered genitals or whatever? So is there,
yeah,
we can just buy them online, and where would you suggest?
I'll add that to your links as well. I mainly use Intimask. Intimask is a really great website in the UK. They deliver super quick. Like I made an order like 3 days ago and they arrived within a day or two. So they're super helpful. They have all the shade sheet. If I can't see my actors beforehand and I need to get a shade match, I send them the shade thing and I'm like, print that out and see what you are. And we'll go by that. I normally will have everything ready for them and be like, okay, this is this one, and this is how much coverage you get here. And I always get production to order a few of the different kinds if it allows in their budget to really fit it in. But yeah, they can be very easily got. Just make sure always that you get ones with a barrier in it, because you can take the barrier out. I know it's a little bit more expensive, it's an extra $5, but it's all about having extra protection, because that barrier, it's not that you won't feel like nothing, but it gets rid of any sensation. So you don't feel someone touching you, you know, like someone's there, there's a pressure there, but it's not like a touch. You're not violated. There's no passing of fluids, nothing. And again, like I'd separate people as well to make sure you're not actually on top of each other. But yeah, there's so many great websites, but Intimass could probably be the easiest one for European and Irish people and people in the UK to kind of access, rather than all the big American ones. Now, they're not cheap by any means. I think it is important though to try get new ones for each production. Like they have on them, if you saw, they have like a name bit where you can write it on. So if we're going to be doing like, say, a 3-week shoot, just on intimacy coordination, just for those scenes. They are machine washable. You take the barrier out and you wash it, and you can reuse it. But if it's a new person, now some intimacy coordinators and costume people will just wash it and go, right, okay, can we use it for the next person? I feel weird about that. That's like sharing underwear, but they're easy enough to get. They're about like between 31 and 38 euro each. But yeah.
So it might be a good idea for the actors to get one from themselves, basically.
You could do that, honestly. It's a great investment, because you don't know when you're going to do a scene. And that way you can guarantee you're getting the right stuff. I'd suggest
then
that.
it's the right shade and you know that it's
Yeah.
only you who worn it.
Yeah. And you could always, if it's like a bigger budget, you can then like charge them, put on your invoice, like, yeah, that. Be cheeky, just try.
Anyone else, guys? Okay.
Also, if you guys are ever really stuck, I'll give you all my other ways of reaching me. I always say I never turn down intimacy, because I know it's so hard to get them. If I have the time, I'll always reach out and like message people back if they're really snookered and they're like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I have this scene, or I'm directing this film and we have those scenes and I can't get an intimacy coordinator and I have no clue, help. I will happily help anyone, because I went through a shitty experience and I don't want anyone to feel that again. So if you do have any questions and you need, I will get back to you as soon as I can. Please reach out. I'd rather you all feel super comfy and happy than going, oh God, and have a horrible experience, because it's not nice.
I agree with that. Just honestly, if you are not comfortable, don't do this, but any of the actors here, if anyone had a good, or let's say, if anyone had a bad experience on set, you know, so you guys then lucky, because I think like once I was in a similar workshop than this, and half of the room put their hands up and half of the room was saying stories that were absolutely horrifying. So this is why today was so important for all of you. And in case we can't afford Sinead or she is busy, you learned a bunch of things what you can do. You build trust, you check in with your actors, you make sure that you only have a skeleton crew on set. Ideally try to have at least, you know, if you are putting a female in a very vulnerable situation, try not to have 5 lads on the crew, if possible. And then just make sure that you check in constantly with your actors and you are not forcing them to do something that they are not comfortable with.
Because you guys could feel okay and you're like, oh, I don't have a bad experience, and then you think about it after a while, you could be like 3 a.m, you go, oh, actually that time I felt super uncomfortable and that made me feel really awkward. Like when I was on a set doing intimacy coordination, I was talking to one of the actors, famous actor, I won't say her name, and she was asking me about it and I was like, yeah, and that was just really bad. She was like, that's actually assault. I was like, oh, I didn't think of it that way, that happened. And intimacy coordination as well, it's really mentally hard sometimes, because you are like choreographing these scenes and you have to watch people. And I know it's acting, but it can be very hard to watch someone be assaulted and knowing that you're the one that choreographed it, and it can hit you sometimes in a weird way, and it could be 1 in the morning or 10 when you're like, oh God. But at the same time, I would happily go through that 1,000,000 times over to know that it was done safely and no one was actually harmed. and be there as that support for the actors and for the crew that went through that as well, because it's not easy, and know that everyone was okay. But it is a hard mentally job. So if you do consider it, think of that first. But do it, make more.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
you.
Give it up for Sinead, guys. So that concludes our workshop for now. If you guys will just leave the room a little while, and we continue back at around doors opening at 6:30. Philip, 6:30. Yeah, and if obviously if anyone wants to have a chat with Sinead and look at the things she has with her, then feel free. Thank you, guys.